Hey everyone, Pat from Aeroflow Performance, and today I'm going to introduce you to a new and often requested addition to our big boy range of boosted turbochargers. These are the 88102. So as most of you know, we've had the big boy range of turbochargers in our boosted turbocharger range for a little while now, starting off with the 94103, which was GT55 based core, a 55 based turbine as well, with, as the name implies, a 94mm compressor. We've also had the journal bearing 102 range, which was a 94, a 98, a 102 and a 106 compressor, matched with the 102 GT55 based turbine. So we've had those going for a little while. We've recently added the 106 112, which is the top of the tree in our range. But we've had quite a few requests from a lot of customers that are running perhaps a larger capacity motor, but not looking for an incredible amount of boost or horsepower. They want something that's going to have the turbine to deal with the larger capacity and keep the back pressure down in the exhaust manifolds, but then have a bit more response for, say, street driving or, you know, a middle range sort of performance, anywhere from, say, 900 to sort of 12 to 1300 horsepower on anywhere from, say, a 6 to a 8 litre engine. So the answer to that is the 88102. So as you can see on the front, we have the point milled 7075 billet alloy compressor wheel that we're used to in the boosted range, which is a great feature of ours. You can see that's an 88mm 13 blade compressor wheel. So being 88mm means that the inertia from the compressor to the turbine is much lower, so it's easier for the turbine to spin the compressor, which means more response, lower in the RPM range on any given vehicle. That comes through to the billet core, which we'll show you some close-ups of. It's this beautiful CNC billet machined core that is similar in the 106 112 and the 94 103. It's a triple ball bearing core, so a lot of stability for the turbine shaft to run through the center of that core, and the large cooling fins on either side. This is an oil-only lubricated core. It doesn't have water ports on either side, and that's why it's important to run a larger drain and potentially a larger feed for the oil as well. So normally we would do a -4, which in most cases is fine. In a high or max effort situation, you could maybe go to a -6, as long as the restrictor fitting is still fitted to the core. And then for the drain, absolute minimum of a -10, but probably a -12 is more applicable to this frame core. If we move on to the turbine side of the turbocharger, we're talking, as mentioned, a GT55 style turbine wheel. It is a 10 blade turbine wheel in a 102mm size on the extruder. So that's basically going to flow plenty of exhaust from larger capacity, so generally V8s. There's definitely some 6-cylinder motors out there running this size turbo now. There's a couple of 4 cylinders, but we're talking maximum effort, you know, 1500 plus horsepower over 4-cylinder running something like this. So the 102 will flow plenty for anything smaller than a V8, and then going to say rotary or larger displacement V8s. This is still a great option, and the 88mm wheel is probably only going to be a restriction before the turbine wheel on most applications. So Power wise, we're talking around 1500 horsepower is the rating on this. Again, that'll be your 88mm compressor wheel as the restriction. To relate it to perhaps something that's more familiar in the Australian market, you know, LS engines on Commodores, you're going to see maybe 1300 horsepower with this size turbo. Could be more, depends. 6-cylinder, say a Barra with this size turbo, you're probably going to be heading towards 1600 maybe, depending on the fuel and the rest of the application, the engine combination. So yeah, still plenty in there, but it's not going to reach those heights of, you know, say like the 106, 112, which is all the way up to 3000 horsepower, or say a 106, 102, which is, you know, 2 to 2.5. So yeah, it's really in that little bit more, it seems odd with, you know, a turbo this size to say it's a bit more streetable, but it genuinely is a bit more applicable to something that's maybe a street and strict combination, or say a heavier car that needs a little bit more boost down low to get it going. That's really what the 88-102 is for. So we touched on the turbine briefly for this turbocharger. We should also speak about the turbine housing options. Over here we have the T6 turbine housing option, which is a 124 AR. And then we also have the dual V-band rear housing, which is a 122 AR. So either option will flow almost the same amount of exhaust gas. The V-band, of course, as we've touched on previous videos, is much more compact. We'll show you some close-up shots of that when you compare it to the T6. And also there is a significant weight benefit for going the dual V-band versus the T6. In other videos we've compared the two. There's approximately a 7 kilo difference between the combinations of T6 and dual V-band rear housings. So definitely something to consider when you're starting from scratch, or you're ordering manifolds or deciding how to design your manifolds to support one of these turbos. The V-band is a big weight saving, so that can be benefits not only to weight distribution on the vehicle, but also just supporting that turbocharger and the way that you have to design the manifolds or the space in which it's going to fit. So weight saving, safe space, space saving, but also the tried and tested T6 is, you know, it's great if you're going to replace something. If you've already got manifolds that have got a T6 flange on them, then this will bolt straight onto that. A couple of more little points that feature on this turbo with the V-band rear housing. We have the little lugs that allow you to mount or support the rear housing, as opposed to say a T6 where you've got this big chunky flange that's going to also, I suppose, double as a support plate or support mounting area. The V-band has these little lugs that are on the side, so you can mount it from say a chassis rail or an engine plate or something like that to support the weight. Jumping back to the front housing, like most of our range, we've got the compressor speed sensor port in the front, and then also a 1/8 NPT boost reference port or vacuum port, or however you'd want to describe it, generally a boost reference port there. The outlet of the compressor is also V-banded as well, so for high boost applications you don't have to worry about a silicon hose or anything like that coming off. Alright guys, now you know all about the new big boy 88-102. You can check them out at your local distributor, quality retail outlet, or jump online at aeroflowperformance.com. And just in case you've got any other questions or you'd like some help with application, make sure you send us an email at boosted@aeroflowperformance.com.